special guest, of course, is Ryan. Oh God, I lost my whole screen. Ryan Kiscaden. We met while he worked at APR many years ago. How did this get to that?
That's where I know Ryan from.
Good.
Yeah.
It's all coming back.
It's all coming back now.
So currently, just so you know, he does have an MBA with a marketing sales growth mentality. He's always been phenomenal when it comes to marketing, and I'm amazed he's written these 2 great books. He's of course stayed the course and Water Came to a Stop. They're listed here, and he has a talent that some people have no clue that Ryan has a talent for. So tonight's episode, as it comes up on the screen, maybe some of you can see it. There it is.
Drummer.
Yeah. That's
Ryan's Ryan, like Nick Chisulo, is a drummer, and I wouldn't have thought it from either one of these people, but he is a phenomenal drummer. So you might say
Nick looks like a drummer. Come on now, Nick looks like a drummer. He does.
You may say Ryan who, but you're going to know who Ryan is here in just a second. So let me get that off the screen, and there we go. I'm just cleaning my screen up real quick, Ryan. Sorry. So here we go. So, geez, Ryan, we have a good number of people rolling in right now. So a lot of people come in slightly late, and it is the holidays. So our registration was slightly low, but that also means that the views on the video will be much higher, which is great, right? So we all know where I met Ryan now at APR, but from APR, Ryan and I stayed in touch when we went to, and I believe it was Thermostat Recycling. And then from Thermostat Recycling, where you were all over the place, putting these little green boxes everywhere for people to put mercury thermostats in so you could store them in a warehouse where they're just going to shit for the rest of their life. You went to Bradford White after that. Yes. And you were with my friends at Bradford White, and I've been friends with that entire family and most of the guys you worked with for 35, 40 years, which was phenomenal. And then you went to Watts, right? So, and your specialty all in this has been really marketing and growth based. But then you write 2 books. You write one with kind of memoirs of your past, right? Kind of, right?
Yeah.
And then you write a children's book. And I was blown away. I did buy quite a few copies. I did send one to my daughter's school out in Tacoma, as you saw. Stay the course is great. I was not expecting a illustrated children's book, and so I have to ask you about that. But I want you to get into that after you tell us about what led you to here and your 4 jobs in your entire career and what you did.
Cool. Well, yeah. So
how's that for one hell of a question?
That's one big run-on question. Yeah. Thank you all for having me. Thanks to the NTI folks, and obviously Steve, you and I we've known each other for a while, and consider you a friend along with an industry partner. So, which again, funny story for those on the call. I mean, literally, Steve and I say this every time we see each other. We live 10 minutes from each other, but we don't see each other unless we're at industry events, or now we're on a podcast tonight. So it's crazy to me. Yeah, I mean, it really started my career at the wholesale level. Worked 7 years there as a management trainee. I did a lot of different roles. So between the purchasing jobs to business development, I mean, I had a stint working at counters for 1.5 years, and I think I look back on those experiences there and say, that's where I really started to fall in love with the business, right? I didn't know what I wanted to be. This is my first job out of college, and didn't realize how necessary and great our business is until I really had to do that job every day. I like to joke that some of my first experiences was, answering the phone, and a customer would call me and they'd be like, middle of like their order, and they'd say, hey, yeah, I need a bucket of steam. And I'm like frantically typing away on the computer, like, hey, I got to find this bucket of steam. What's a bucket of steam? I don't know anything. And then obviously the trick is there is no bucket of steam. So, my memories and still about contractors, even I interact today with, blue collar, salt of the earth, just folks that, are my best friends from back home where I grew up, blue collar family. My brother-in-law is a master plumber. So, this business kind of, not only did I work in it, but I never really realized I was surrounded by it. And so with that in mind, a lot of career transitions and opportunities have presented to me over the years. I've taken something unique away from each one of them, and but I really call back to dealing directly with contractors, and kind of where I am now with writing this book, and the book is a labor of love. It was really the children's book was around skilled trades, and so I started with this idea of why is it that whenever there's conversations about getting more folks into our industry, that's always about the rational benefits to getting in it, right? So again, here's my marketing hat coming out, but we talk about rational benefits like, well, you make a lot of money, it's a safe job, it's a career, with a recession-proof industry, things like that, which those are rational things. But the emotional benefits that come from this are things like helping others and feeling good about doing this kind of work, solving problems, being appreciated. And when I think about where can I deliver that message to the strongest, that's when the kids book really came to my mind, and that children this age have not been targeted versus all the efforts, all the money, all the scholarship funds that are being presented at middle school and high school age to kind of pick off those vo-tech, people to go into vo-tech. And so, this is my attempt to really go after an area and a niche that, yeah, you want to show kids that being a plumber is a pretty cool thing, and at least that's the intent of the story is. But also I did it for the grandparents and the parents and others that are buying this book, and they can look at this story and go, you know what, maybe I had the wrong perception of what it is that these folks do, and I can change my mind about that, and I'll not negatively influence my child with it. So in a nutshell, that's how I ended up with the book. Look, the book is a side gig. I am happily employed with a very successful plumbing manufacturer as well, and they've been so supportive of this rollout of the book. And I'm happy to talk more, Steve, about my experiences as well. But that's probably me in a nutshell. So
that's awesome. I was blown away. So what did you find that was unusual about writing this book? What were the challenges in putting together a child's book? It was to work a plumber. It's not like, if you get this book, I'm going to tell you guys, you don't open up page one and go, oh, look, it's Joe Plumber, and Joe Plumber is putting in a faucet. It doesn't do this. It really doesn't. It introduces the trades in a great way. So what were the challenges in doing this?
Yeah, I think the first challenge was myself being the hardest critic. Was, when you think, okay, everyone has we all have ideas, and so you're at home and, oh, I can spend time working on this, or what else could I be working on? But I have a lot of really great people around me that if I do bounce these ideas off of, they say to me, yeah, that's a really silly idea, let's not do that one, to, no, that's a great idea, keep going. And every stage when I kept saying, okay, well, I wrote the manuscript, okay, should I stop? No. Along the way, I just kept checking in with that close cohort, between my family and friends and others, and they just kept saying, this is a book we need. It's very clearly there's a niche for here to talk about this, but how are you going to present it? And unlike, I would say, my first book that I wrote, this book has what's called a brand script outline when you first start with, which is you have a hero, you have a villain, there's a plot, there's there's some ending, So for those that have never had the opportunity to write a storybook, because that's essentially what this is, there's this idea of like man versus man versus animal, man versus self or nature. So all those things kind of mix together, and you got to pick who the villain will be, what is the character's issues, and then how are those things resolved. So when you apply that to, in this case, this book, it's really the plumbers, in this case, Next Up Trades, come and solve an issue caused by the villain, which happens to be the kid, his name's Dean in the story, of causing his water to stop at home. And the ending, or the feel-good moment about this, is that the family appreciates, had they not had a plumber available to come solve this problem, then they would still be in the same situation, right? So they're appreciated for what they've done. They've been completed. The family's excited that they're there, and so encouraged by the fact that they've solved the issue. And then one other comment I'd make, Steve, about your question is, writing a book like this requires, believe it or not, a lot of research, right? The creative elements of it, sure, that's something that's going to be pulled out of you. Maybe you get, pull the creative elements, from other places. But, there's a lot of research necessary to figure out what are popular with kids. So there were specific things put in this book. So like there was reference to pizza. There was reference to, dare I say, poop, right? There was reference to the top animals that were, the top 10 animals are either, in my case, fish or a gopher, which happens to be the two animal characters, right? So there was a lot of that kind of research applied before I just started writing it. But again, I started with the brand script and then did that research to sort of confirm it. But it is a labor of love, and no matter what creative projects you do. And this one was really fun to accomplish. I'm so proud of it. I can't wait to look back many years from now and go and look at that and go, I can't believe I actually produced that. So it's really exciting.
That's well, and I'm married to an educator. My daughter is an educator. They both fell in love with the book. My wife insisted that I get more copies to send out to other children that we all know, whether it be grandchildren or friends' children's or other teachers' children. It was quite fascinating how quickly, in my realm, it took way off. So here you have an MBA, you have two kids of your own, and you're writing this book, and you're working for Watts, doing a huge job. I mean, I'm looking at a whole crap load of challenges, but was your biggest challenge, like, in my opinion, making the illustrations? Was it the distractors, sitting there trying to rate this thing and go, what rhymes with poop? And you can't, because the kids are going, daddy, daddy, daddy. I mean, what were the challenges through this, and how did it apply with your education?
Yeah, I think to answer that, I think the detractors in my case they weren't really there, except for there's a story here on when I had the manuscript, when I had the idea, when I did the research, like I presented what they call, just like these pitch letters and these pitch documents. And so I went out and I pitched the manuscript for about 1.5 years to literary agents. And I went to 65 of them, and I heard back from 14, and 14 said no, right? And the rest said nothing. But what I learned in that, believe it or not, it's crazy. By the way, I have a lot of stories about that too, like, what I learned in the underbelly, I'll call it, of the publishing world for books. But again, specifically children's books, it's actually quite incredible to hear about. But what I heard in those 14 no's was things to change, things to modify, things to make it better. So I can honestly tell you, the folks, they gave me advice on, word count, like it's too long or it's too short, or, the story doesn't, tie together, tight enough. That's why I don't want to represent it essentially to a publisher. But that was the kind of feedback you need to make it better, and then surround yourself with the right talent, I would say, to make it a reality. And in my case, believe it or not, the illustrations were the easy part. Those were all done on a website called Fiverr.com. So I actually crowdsourced the illustrations to a graphic designer that had put out many kid books, and paid them a fee to do so, and then worked over WhatsApp, that the application to talk, and just give feedback on what I was thinking from there on out. So believe it or not, that part was easy, but the pitching, the just going back to the well on, okay, so this didn't work, what else? I mean, I probably had 30 renditions of this manuscript before I went to illustrations. To be honest, it was crazy, and I think I'm a pretty good writer, but I think it only got better with that feedback. And then I'll say it this way, I have a pretty brutal editor at home, aka my wife. So there was also, with all love, but there was definitely feedback there that changed and made it better too. So, but yeah, of course there's detractors, but you kind of muscle through it.
Yeah. So this is, and people that are on here tonight and listening or watching this replay at their leisure, This is just one book of a much bigger picture, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm hoping over the course of the next few years to put out the full series, which in my mind is related to plumbing, which is the first one, HVAC, and then electrical. And so, and I chose that idea because there's a lot of similarities, right, between overlap in work and you know, contractor types. There's definitely more of this mashup going on between what is it that the you know, contractors have in their lines in terms of what they go to homes with, also what, you know, distributors are selling, and also, you know, if you take even a bigger step back, maybe to the more governmental classifications of our business, you know, MEP, or that idea of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. That's where I really got the idea of doing this as focused on all three at least. Look, sky's the limit. I'm always looking for good partners to help, you know, move this kind of project forward, but I really anticipate if no help is coming, to do it myself and get 3 of these out the door and tell this message, you know, and the message being that the skilled trades are noble, they're necessary, and they should be appreciated when completed. And that's really the mission of all these books.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And just while we're on it, because it just popped into my mind, and we'll repeat this later. How can people, and by the way, if you didn't catch the picture before or on your invites, over Ryan's right shoulder on the left-hand side of your screen is the cover of the book. So how do people buy this book? I mean, I know how I bought it, but I would rather you present that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, again, you're doing business with me, right? Not anyone else. But it's kiscadenconsulting.com. That's the website, and that has all of the information on where to find the book. It's available on Amazon, both print and also e-Kindle version. It's also now, as of last week, available on Google Play. So a lot of people don't know that Google sells books now, but so there's a version of the book there as well. And so, you know, real quick about that, I'll just make this comment. This is, again, something that a lot of people don't know about Amazon publishing, is that I don't have a single bit of inventory of this book anywhere. It is the way that Amazon handles the distribution of this. If you're a Prime member and you want the paperback version, it takes your order, and then within 3 days we'll fulfill that order by sending it to a local print shop. Doesn't matter if it's 1, 100, and then ship you the book from there. So I'm guaranteed high quality, you know, local printing within 3 days with Prime through that distribution. So I know it's the less margin that you can get with all the distributors, but no one can match it in terms of book distribution without having to take an inventory position. So Amazon's great like that, and I'm sure all the folks on this call have used Amazon in some capacity.
No,
Yeah,
so you
it's
know,
literally hot off the press.
Literally hot off the press. Yeah.
So you say that Dan Holohan got his start writing a book called Pumping Away, and he went and like had to like borrow money against his car to get 100 copies made, and thought this is never going to fly, and he self-published it, and he sent it out from his house, and he bought 100, and they sold out in about an hour. And he was like, uh-oh, now we got to buy more. So there's pluses and minuses. Danny made a lot of money on that book, but you don't have all that hassle of going to the printer, bringing them back, having to come up with the cash, having to, you know, so it's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool way to do it with Amazon.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big fan of it, and I'm also a big fan of anyone that is ever interested in writing anything. Is, you know, the Amazon Kindle publishing service makes it really easy. And again, if you're writing something small yourself, like a book like this, to, you know, big projects, it's incredible what they can do through that software. So
now,
big fan.
now were they one of the guys that came back to you and said, oh, Ryan, this is too short, or this is too long, or this word doesn't fit, or these 2 words don't rhyme, whatever? Were they one of those guys, or this is just where you went after you had it completely finished and said, here, do this? Yeah,
they are one of the last steps in the line in terms of publishing and finishing a book. They are, yeah, there's a whole underbelly, like I say, about how this all is accomplished. But those literary agents, the way I describe them is they're real estate agents, right? They don't make a dime off of you until they sell you a home, or in this case, a publishing advance from a publisher. And you know, that's really the only ways that they make their money. And so very interesting how they go to market. So they can be very selective on what they see for manuscripts. And, you know, this is one of those things too, where you start sending out your manuscript. it's copyright protected. That's a wonderful thing about living in the United States, right? You can either pay to get it copyright protected, or it's already protected by the fact that you produced it. And so it is incredible to be able to shop this and get, folks to look at it, either give you feedback unintentionally or intentionally, in that case. But yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I still can't believe that you found time between your two kids, 8 and 10, I believe, and your wife.
4 and 6. 4 and 6.
Oh, 4 and 6. Oh, mine are 8 and 10. Mine are 8 and 10. Yours are 4 and 6. God, I had you way ahead of the game. So 4 and 6. So where did you find the time to do this? I mean, like, what, the job with Watts is like no little thing, right? I mean, this is pretty big.
No, it is. It's a big role. But for me, I've always been an early riser, probably like most on this call. Like, we're all in farmer time. But
no. Slow that down. Not all of us are on that farmer time.
Don't Jason into that corral.
Do not put me into that crowd. No.
Jay, well, what, 8 o'clock? I mean, you're not.
8 o'clock. Yeah, I'm just rolling out at that point. I've been up. I just went to bed at 2. I got to stay up for Alaska.
Well, yeah, again, I mean, a lot of people are night owls. That sounds like it's Jason on this call, but not me. So I do everything, Steve, first thing in the morning, right? That 5, as I call it, that's my happy hour. The 5 a.m. time slot onwards until everyone gets up. That's when all the best work gets done, the thinking, the reading, the podcast listening, in the case of the book, the writing, the editing, the inspiration. And then the other part of it too is, with the creative process, is probably like for a lot of folks is, you spend your time working on something, and then it's when you're not working on it that you think of something you want to add to it, or an idea, or you get inspired somewhere else. It's the same process, right? Like, I think I had Gomer at first with a giraffe in the first version, and I'm like, wait, shouldn't it be a fish because of the water? And then it's like, but that didn't hit me when I'm working on the book. It hit me, I'm in the shower, or I'm like doing something else. And so document, write it down, save it, and then implement it.
And you say that, and all of us, the other 3 people on this screen right now, average about 40,000 miles a year behind a wheel. And we come up with lots of great ideas, and I have hundreds of notes. I just can't find the notebook I used to put them in. And one day I will, and I'll be like, whoa, look at all these great ideas.
Great. You can also use voice memos. I've started using voice memos on my phone too, where you like just hit record and just talk into it, and then you have it on the phone.
That's what I
Yeah.
most useful, especially in that car time. Just there's a brilliant idea.
I'm a scribbler.
Oh,
I've always been a scribbler for notes.
By law, you're not supposed to be texting and driving, so it's good you're using that voiceover.
You don't text. You speak. It's a microphone. It's like Siri. Remember this or whatever.
You're not texting, you're following the laws. So abiding the rules. So I have a question for you, bud. What part of Watts do you work for again?
Yeah, so I work out of our corporate office based out of North Andover, Massachusetts.
Right.
But I am remote for in Philadelphia. So I work in our marketing communications department, and I run our sales enablement operation. I'll call it our department.
Oh wow.
Yep. I'll make some quick comments about that. So I'm really impressed with what we're doing there. It's a new adventure, I'd say, for Watts in the last couple of years. But this idea around digitally transforming manufacturer reps and the sales channel to become better marketers. And so under my jurisdiction, I got Canada, US, and a little bit possibly in the future of Latin America. But just trying to help that group get better. And so how do they go to market with spec engineers? How do they go to market with the mechanical contractors? How do they market their own businesses? So in some ways, this role is somewhat marketing consultant for, in our case, 101 manufacturer reps in that territory, right? Between we have multi-line reps to single line reps, and we have because we have 17 brands. But it's a great opportunity. I'm really happy to be there, and I'm really tied in close with our training group, and so which goes hand in hand with the idea of sales enablement, coaching, training the sales force, teaching them marketing. How new ideas, and so I work in that division and work very closely with our marketing team.
Yeah, we had a question. Malik had asked, do you have a contact at Techmar? Do you work with Techmar? So that answered that question, Malik. He does.
Yeah, very much. I do. We work with Techmar every day.
It's a Decmar's a great product. So
Oh,
I mean,
a
so
lot of stuff.
so you clearly have a huge background in marketing, and you know our basis if we talk to are wholesalers, but mostly tradesmen, mostly the guy in the field, the owner of the contracting business, and they've never been in the marketing field. I mean, this is we include in our training suggestions on how to put certain things in their contracts to try to gain the confidence in the at that point. But first you have to get to that point, and that's all marketing, right? That's getting in there. So if you had to put in a word on that, if you had one thing that you or two or three things you could say on what people should focus on, something you can help them with, what is your insight on that?
Yeah, I would say most marketing consultants will start to prescribe to you, here are the tactics you got to do. And most of the time, those tactics are so new, they're interesting, they make you want to, like, some folks just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, it's too technical. At the end of the day, it's like a lot of things. Make a plan, execute your plan, measure your plan, and adjust, right? So, if it's a contractor and it's in a region that, dare I say, like, the old floor, the mats in the diner kind of thing, like if that works for you and you can measure it and that's what is driving your business, why adjust there? And I know it sounds crazy as we're in the 21st century, but I think it's more important to believe in marketing and not just throw your money at something thinking it might work, but know how it might work and work with smart people that can help you do it well. And particularly around our business, there's a lot of folks and a lot of support between the manufacturer rep level to us as manufacturers to help guide the contractors on this. I mean, we succeed when they do. It's just the fact. And the better they know the product, the better they know how to go to market, the more they can cultivate their own leads, and think about their own company as a brand. I think that's where they'll benefit ultimately. So, I mean, again, each case is different, but that's typically where I start is, start at the highest level, what works for you, measure it, and then adjust. I mean, that's really the name of the game. And again, there's tactics now like crazy. Like, do I do social media? Do I do email marketing? Do I do text marketing? In fact, I just sent one of my employees yesterday to New York City to learn more about the metaverse. We got invited to a conference there in New York. And how will that be applied potentially in our industry? And more interestingly enough, how can that be applied to contractors? One idea that they had, even they talked about in this meeting, was training where you're doing, AR-based training that's more, like live, but more not just training of your current guys, but a hiring thing. How many times you go to hire someone based on attitude, or hire someone based on, hey, they actually might show up to work tomorrow, or they may say that, hey, I've changed out many capacitors in a heat pump. I know how to do that. Well, here, show it to me. Take this, AR or this headset and prove it to me through this platform. That's where the world is kind of moving to, and that immersive element. But anyway, I mean, that's like, in our industry, that it feels like light ages away, unfortunately. But it's not. It really isn't.
It's today.
Yeah,
that's coming down. That's being worked on as we speak. I mean, in a lot of different areas of our realm. It's here, but you touched on a fun subject there, which is shortages of employees in this industry, and people walk in and I'll tell you what, there's some people who go, wait a minute, let me hold a mirror on your nose. Yes, you're breathing. Wait a minute, let me check your pulse. You have a pulse. Okay, you're in. And whether they fit their community or not, whether they're smart or not, because we have such a shortage of people. And it was given to me once that for every 10 people we lose in this industry, we only gain one. So where do you feel, we're kind of in the perfect storm here of skilled trade or lack of skilled trade workers. People are dropping out of business, they're retiring because nobody will buy their business. They can't pass it on. They're leaving because they couldn't get anybody to work for them. They're tired of being underneath a sink or inside of a boiler room. So what do you think the issues are, and how can we change that? What are the challenges? Where do we go?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an all the above approach. I think that we have to band together for those that care and spend time on the skilled trades, and try to work more jointly together. I mean, look, again, I'm here tonight talking about a book that I wrote that's geared towards this issue and subject, but that alone will not solve this problem. The problem is negative perceptions and negative stereotypes. And in my mind, and again, I kind of made this argument earlier, which is going after that generation earlier that's much more impressionable, that 4 to 8 year old, in my case, maybe 10-year-old, that you can say, working in an HVAC job is an okay job to have. It'll make you happy. It'll make you feel satisfied with your life, instead of, focusing only on the middle school and high school age to say you're going to make a lot of money if you do this and you won't have any debt. And by the way, it can go both ways. You can do both types of messaging, but I just think we have to band together better. And the other problem that I see, there's a lot of echo chamber talk, right? It's like, no offense, I'm on this podcast talking to you guys, but like, how do I take this to others? How do you take it outside of this room and have this conversation? And at least in the kids book example, it's an easy way to have that message talking point, which is, wait a second, if we don't have plumbers in here, my home is going to be left uncomfortable for longer. I'm going to be uncomfortable for longer. So it is a selfish motivation. Another thing I'd mention is we got to think about the messaging on we have in our business, these jobs are going to be very hard to automate, and they're going to be very hard to replace, right? So like if you think about a bank teller, someone that works at fast food, these things can be replaced by automation, kiosks, things like that. Today, none of us sell self-install boilers, right? None of us sell, so you need someone that's going to do what's called a non-routine task, which is you show up, you have to adjust it, you got to use some critical thinking, and make those changes and test that equipment there on the spot. That's not going to be a DIY job, at least for I think many, many, many decades, right? So the way to do this is getting folks together that have a similar message, maintain that message, and coordinate that with some of the money efforts, the grants, the educational fronts that have been out there. I think that's how we can start to make a dent on this. But yeah, we got to erase these negative stereotypes that it's the butt crack plumber, it's the rejects of high school, and move this to something that's a more positive message. And I would argue less the money, less the rational stuff.
No, you're right, because the technology in your. Go ahead, Ted.
Part of the problem has been ourselves. I mean, how we've portrayed ourselves. I mean, we're to blame as an industry for the butt crack plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the technology in Europe, I've been to Italy numerous times, and they have virtual reality training, like you're talking about before. It's a whole different way of life, and these kids and guys going to understand it's not just like Steve said, a heartbeat. They got a pulse, they can do the job. They got to also know there's a lot of things. The equipment's changing, but you still need a plumber and somebody install it. It's not going to put itself on the wall and pipe itself in.
Right.
So Ryan, you're almost talking about starting a whole organization just to promote the trades.
Oh, I mean, you never know, right? You always keep your career options open, but it would be great to continue this message, and it would be great for others to latch onto it. Look, there's so many great organizations already out there. Certainly, I mean, I've been in talks with many of them, even with the book release and even prior to that. And it's just, how do we do this together? I think that's really the key point that I have. And then back to Steve, you talked a little bit about some of those data points about the industry. I think the BLS had a survey that had come out that basically said by 2025, technicians in the trades will need, the workforce needs to grow by 15%, while all other occupations need to grow by 7%. So it's double. It's actually double what all the other occupations are. That's scary because of the retirement. And by the way, it's not just the meat industries, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It's anything skilled trades, skilled nurses, and carpentry, and all kinds of anything skilled related is really honestly ready for a renaissance, I believe. Getting folks back into this, getting folks interested, getting them to know how to use their hands, be taught to not only do that but also think critically. In fact, I'll reference another book real quick. I think the book was by a guy named Matthew Crawford, and Matthew Crawford wrote this book. It's called Shop Class is Soul Craft. He's basically an armchair philosopher. But this idea really it stems around that the manual work can actually be some of the most intellectually stimulating kind of work out there. And it's because you're kind of combining all the senses, but you're also solving problems for people. So again, that's the kind of messaging we got to get back in front of folks, is that, you know, it's not just, oh, you fixed a dirty job, you know, it's been branded out there. It actually makes you feel good when you help somebody else, right? Because I mean, I can work in front of a computer all day, not really helping people maybe as directly as I could, versus this kind of work where you can literally change someone's day, life, health, things like that within, you know, a couple minutes of your time or hours.
But, you know, so you kind of
Tangible. It's tangible. That's a point you're making that I think often gets overlooked. The satisfaction that comes from actually doing something tangible, whether it's building the heating system, whether it's solving a problem, whether it's making somebody happy in a direct way. It's tangible, and you don't get that satisfaction in so many other professions.
Well, and we also would reduce the amount of drugs we need for ADHD if more people with a multi-level, multi-sensory, always having to have that input at 9 different directions instead of drugging them to get them into the trades would bring one up and bring one down, right? It would get rid of the medicine and bring up the trades, right? So, but I digress on that because I am such an ADHD kid. But
And believe it or not, that's what makes you good HVAC technicians. They're,
yeah.
you know, they're go-getters. Their mind's always thinking. They can read wire diagrams. It's really something that, you know, we all have it. So,
you know, Jason, I think you were talking too about the technology piece. This is something that, you know, another message point I've had out there is, you know, you think about technology both from what's going into these products now. Like, you know, you guys are selling a Wi-Fi connected boiler, right? And the smart and connected.
we can do everything now. Control temperature.
It's
Come on
crazy.
now.
So you think about the abilities that you need to have as a technician to not only set those things up, but also then, you know, actually troubleshoot the computer, if you will, or, you know, the control panels. You know, that again, that is, for me, that's something like IoT is a sexy thing, and that is becoming put into a non-sexy industry that, you know, now it will be sexy, you know. So that the technology piece is big. I also think that, you know, just that ability just to make sure that, you know, whether that data that's coming out of the technology, how do you mine that data? What are you doing, you know, to help, you know, use it for the greater good, essentially?
There's a lot there. See, you bring that up, and believe it or not, a lot of people don't understand. When you go to Europe, a boiler is a part of their house. They take it from apartment to apartment. So it's not just a piece, it's a part of their home. So they invest in something good, and that's why it's different over there, you know. But the technology piece is huge. I mean, we have it. Steve can tell you how many times we look at people's boilers just online and go through things, and you can just look at troubleshooting. I mean, it's there, and like you said, it's the future, and you don't have to just have a pulse. You know, you can use your smartphone to kind of diagnose it. So.
You know, Jason, you say that, and in Europe, there's a big difference in Europe, and this is going to follow into something else. But when it comes to education for tradesmen here in the USA, right? So most of us went to tech school because we weren't kids who could be taught. We weren't bad kids, just the teachers were incapable to control us, so they sent us to tech, and so that went downhill, and which is not good. So we've never been looked up at as being like, you know, professionals. Now, let's look at what happens in Europe, right? So in Germany, when you're 13 years old, you decide whether you want to work with your hands or work with the computer. So you decide whether you want to go into the trades or whether you want to go into what they call the doctor, lawyer, you know, pharmaceutical, that end. And you decide, and then that's the path you go, and that's what you follow all the way through until you get your master's, right? And so it is a skilled trade, and it is something you have to be accepted in. And it's not easy to become a doctor. It's not easy to become a plumber in Europe to get that title. So, which is amazing. Now, you know, we talk about getting the awareness out there to the next generation. And of course, you had kind of made reference to Mike Rowe and Rowe Works, and he's one of my most favorite podcasts that I listen to. And I travel. I'm in the car a lot. I mean, I read 36 Audible books a year plus. You keep track of 6 or 7 podcasts, and Micro is one of them. So what are some of your favorite that you suggest for young executives, young plumbing, heating guys? You know, what do you suggest that people feed their mind? Because if you're not feeding your mind, you're not getting it, right? So what do you suggest?
Yeah, I definitely suggest Thirsty Thursdays by NTI. I'm trying to think. He almost spit out. Nice.
Double thumbs up on that one.
Nice. So I got to say, I do listen to a lot of the trade media podcasts that are out there. So whether it's Off the Cuff, a lot of the stuff that the Mechanical Hub guys are doing, I really like. I like the HVAC.
They do a good job.
Absolutely. I like Gary McCready's podcast. I love how he just simply puts that together and it just comes out so good. I'm also a big HVAC Jerks fan. So if you guys know the HVAC Jerks.
Yeah, I do.
I love Rich. I've been a big fan of his since day one. I think I've listened to most of those. I still want to know who the hell that damn Anonymous Joe is, but that's coming at some point.
Everybody wants to know who Anonymous Joe is.
Anonymous Joe is. But look, I think there's a lot there. And the advice that I give a lot of people about not just our industry, but just generally is just be interesting, right? Like there's so much good resources. I mean, we just gave 4 here or 5 here. They're out there. I mean, it's crazy how much is available to you without paying for anything. But, you know, other podcasts that I listen to is things that I find interesting, but kind of relate in some way to, you know, to work and business and life, you know, or stress management, you know, like just thinking about other, because that's such an important part of this as well, that think about the message again for technicians and skilled trades is how are they keeping the health of themselves? Are they mentally fit? Are they physically fit? Are they ergonomically prepared? And so to do that, I think it's a piece that, you know, you can't just, it doesn't work all the time. And I know that's the way maybe prior generations have been, but, you know, compartmentalizing, I got to turn this off at some point. I know that's tough with on call. I know that's tough when you got customers and you're a small business owner and everything, but that off time is just as important. Back to, you know, how did I get inspired for the book? You know, that off time provides edits to the book. It provides me thinking, rationality. It's the same logic here, you know. So podcasts are great. I'm a big book reader as well, Steve. I read a lot. I don't do many audiobooks, but I do read a lot. And I always, if anyone asks like what is my favorite book of all time, I mean I have a lot of personal favorite, but the one that I always reference in a business setting is always a book called Managing from the Heart. And this book is one that I've actually had the pleasure of showing the folks at Hardy through their Young Exec Committee. I got that trained with that group. My mentor, the guy that's closest to me, I don't mind dropping his name, Terry Ludwig, as Steve well knows. He
Good guy right there.
Yeah, he's A+. And you know, he was the guy that really showed me that book through a couple of folks that he knew, and I've tried to reread elements of it every year, but it's such a good book to show you how do you do the work when you have so much stress on yourselves, but you know, managing other people by assuming the best, not the worst, and then assuming that they're not wrong in what they do. And so it's a lot harder to say, but yeah.
What was the name of that book again?
Managing from the Heart. Yeah, it's one of my, look, again, there's a lot of great books out there, but that's one for me that it kind of combines life philosophy with, you know, and it's not a hard read at all. It's not like, you know, a big like wordy thing you gotta look up dictionary words, right? This is really spoken in plain language and just straightforward. It gives you stories to recognize and then things to do about those kind of situations. It's just a great book. So.
Well, so you made reference to audiobooks, and I'll just say this, that being at the level that I'm at, I either need to be medicated or find out how to learn, right? So driving gives me one thing to think of. People, sorry, I almost said a bad word. People on the road give me another thing to think of, and then listening to an audiobook gives me the third level, so I can stay involved with it, and that's how I read. So for me to go from 2 books a year to 36 books a year, that's the difference between reading on the beach or reading in my car or listening to a book. So, and it's been phenomenal. I mean, what I've learned, and Ted Lowe, who's, you know, sitting there being smug and not saying crap, has not watched a TV in a bazillion years and has only read and is
Kids
my
couldn't even
hero
watch
when
it.
it comes to reading. It boggles my mind, but it's the getting other input and getting that, just keeping your mind active and getting into that is huge.
And we also like Steve reading, having the audio book so he doesn't pull over for the other drivers either. He's the only person I heard said he wants to put a laser on the front of his car. A laser. He said, just evaporate them, Jason, just evaporate them. Thought that was funny.
Sounds like a Steveism for sure.
That was a Steve. Yes, it was.
So, so when you're not doing all this stuff, and when you're not helping people with marketing, and you're not running your website, and you're not writing a book, and you're not at Watts, and you don't have your, what the hell do you do for downtime?
I know, nothing.
Well, he's watching baseball. I can see that.
Yeah, baseball. I love baseball. No, I'm so very, as Steve had on the picture in the beginning, drummer. So I've been playing the drums for 20 years. It's usually every day, believe it or not, practice of something. It's another lifelong pursuit, not just the skilled trade stuff and in our business, but drumming is hard. It is, you always have something to work on, something to learn. Something you can watch in 5 minutes takes you 3 years to learn how to play properly. It's nuts, But always been a big fan of music. For most of my life, I think I got my first drum set at 15, and mostly drum set playing. Played in bands, cover bands, original bands, but just love the art of playing. And if not doing that, any other time I have left, I should have mentioned first is the family, right? The kids and everybody else, because that is important. But
family's always number one. Your family's always number one.
Exactly. And then any other free time, I do try to get some fishing in. So I've now been an avid fisherman the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah.
You like fishing?
Yes. Trout fishing in Pennsylvania, and a little bit of fly fishing now. So.
Well, trout fishing in Pennsylvania, you just walk down the hill here. You're there.
So
you're good.
True.
So you'll probably see Ryan there before you see him at my house. You're an hour and a half away, and I'm 5 minutes. Okay, good. Anyway, I digress. So let's go back here. So we're down to like our last 3-4 minutes, right? So a couple of things I want to say. One, I want to thank you for being here. This has been a lot of fun. Your book is phenomenal. If I had any kids within my family, 1-2 generations, I'd be buying a book for them to read it to bed to them at night. It's very interesting. It's great. It's priced right. It's a phenomenal go. Get it. Ryan's other book, Stay the Course. Good read. I wish it was on audiobook so I could read it in the car, because I would have been done it in a day instead of done it in a month. But it's still good. Still a great book. And if you need a narrator for that for audiobooks, I'd love to do it. But cool. What question didn't I ask you that you thought, geez, why didn't he say this? Where haven't we gone?
Yeah, I love that question, because now it's like my turn to kind of turn the ship around, kind of thing. I want the question that I have for our industry. All right, and this is, I don't know if you guys, I know you've seen this, is when are we going to move from a sales-driven culture to a marketing-driven culture? We just came out of COVID. We just came through, we have all these tools at our disposal, right? Websites, e-commerce, electronic communications, social
webinars.
Yeah, we have all this stuff. And yet, when I work with salespeople, and I love them, I love guys like Steve, and I love guys like our manufacturer reps, right?
Ted too.
And Ted. Well, when are we going to transition to marketing-led initiatives, lead generation on online, and like that entire stuff? That is, like, as a young guy in our business, I've been trying to do it for 10 years, and I just have that question. And this is a great group to ask it to. I know you guys have an opinion.
Yeah, well, Ryan, so I'll throw my opinion out first, because opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one, right? So here's the problem that is with marketing, and here is my generation and above me's definition of marketing. It's wasted money on things that aren't going to return, because they never did the right thing. It never returned any money, and they would rather pay the sales guys on the road to put their finger in the hole in the dike to solve the problem than to market the next product. And that's my opinion of what has come down ahead of me and how I was taught coming down. And how I started marketing back in my first supply house, doing cut and paste, because we didn't have computers back then. I literally was cutting and pasting and on wax boards to come up with the next ad to put out in the papers to put, and people thought I was nuts, you know. So, but I saw that was a necessity. But that's not always the case. I mean, Ted, what do you feel on the marketing end?
Well, you've heard me. I mean, I've been saying this for years and years and years. I mean, it's a corporate thing. I think different companies feel different ways about it, you know, whether it's the one-man shop or the corporation. I mean, I've been asking this question internally at NTI. How is it that we were the first company in North America to build a wall-hung boiler, a wall-hung condensing boiler, and here we are 20 some odd years later. I'm amazed still at how many people have never heard of us.
Mm.
And it's like pulling teeth to get any marketing done.
And marketing today, in my opinion, was that Ted? I'm sorry.
That's a question that I have yet to have answered to my satisfaction internally.
And today with influencers and you know, the new big word influencers, which Ryan, both you and I have been in that bracket of being influencers, right? Which I don't know how a guy my age and a guy your age, I mean, what a disparity, right? We both influencers, but Jesus. But it takes very little work to do, and the gain you get in the distance is huge when you're looking at the younger generations. I mean, I'm not still hit guys my age in the influencing, right? In the social media stuff, but it's rare and few between. Most of the guys have already checked out. They go home, they get their Miller High Light, or their Bud 30, and they sit down with their 30 pack and they don't look at anything, which kills me too. So that's a whole nother night worth of information right there. But I mean, is there a path you would suggest?
No, I think that like a lot of things in our business, we're just a little, you know, just a slow roll, right? It's just a slower way to adopt to the new thing. It's scary, right? Is to say, okay, do we adjust some of the sales tactics to be more marketing led first, and then that leads and drives the sales activities? You know, I'm amazed still at some of that mentality, which is, you know, we just need to, I think you said at the beginning, Steve, hey, you know, when you guys try to fax all your points over, it's like, wait, fax all your points over, you know, and it's true. It's still a thing. I know. But
wait a minute. Hello.
I mean, and here's the thing. I think, you know, being 46 years old, and, you know, coming from, you know, I thought I was going to go to college, and I'm glad to hurt myself and went to the trades, but I don't think they realize the marketing aspect of it, how they can grab people from different areas. And, you know, like your book, you just went online, you're advertising. Listen, get into the trades. It's a good business. It's fed all of us. Ted, it's fed your family all its years. Steve, you've owned a wholesaler. You've worked for numerous people. You know, you guys, your son still does it, Ted. I'm just saying it's a great business, and these guys need to understand that. You need to market it. We need to start marketing more. I'm not technical. I'm not a sales guy, so I have a whole different view on that. But I'm the technical guy. But you got to get these kids to understand. Listen, and young people coming up, it don't matter, male, female. If you're willing to work, you're willing to put in 12 hours a day. Sometimes it's 12 hours a day. You're willing to put that in. You know, it's, you know,
yeah,
12 hours is a light day.
That's part of the problem, Jason, is that today, the kids today, the 20-somethings today, do not want to work the 12-hour days you and I grew up with.
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
And that's, you know, and that's, as employers, as tradesmen owning a plumbing heating business, we have to learn that these guys are on the TikTok world. They got 30 seconds to learn something, and you got to be on a 9-to-5 basis.
Right.
I mean, you really do. There's the day of throwing a wrench at somebody for doing a bad job is gone. Learn how to love, you know. So
it's just you gotta just get that group.
What's up, kid?
So
yeah,
but that's just my feeling.
Ryan, what's the big answer? What's a big answer? You're much. I mean, you know, I'm just a plumber, man. You got an MBA.
I got one more thing. I got one more thing I'd like to add to this. is that, you know, we talk about people getting in the trades track, but in the trades track, there should also be taught business and marketing and the importance of it. In other words, that's a very serious element of running a small business, a big business, you name it. And I think that the tech track has been diminished, you know, or had been diminished over the past, I would say, couple of decades, and needs to be revived. But more importantly, as it's being revised, and it is, that we incorporate these other necessary elements into it. As I said, the marketing, the business, the accounting. In other words, how to be a complete businessman.
Well,
I hate to say it. Can I say one thing? I hate to say it, but OESP started a communication app to teach guys how to go on and do these different, communication things like Twitter and stuff like that. These guys are going on learning this. They didn't even know this stuff was out there. I mean, I don't do it, but it's there. I mean, that's like you said, it's marketing.
Ted, I will agree with you with this. So I did Pennsylvania has a 5-year apprenticeship program that takes you from apprenticeship to your journeyman's and gets you ready for your master's. 5 years of it, you spend 2 years drawing valves and fittings. You spend a year doing hydronics. You do 2 years doing hot air, which has nothing to do with plumbing, but a lot to do with heating. But in that 5 years, there's nothing to do with business. There's not an accounting 101. There's not a here's what a P&L statement here. There isn't a what's your overhead. And these guys see their bosses, charging $250 an hour in Manhattan, and they go, oh, I'm going to start my own business before they realize what their overhead is. And so unless you understand one, you can't get to the other. And I learned it quickly. I mean, I had a great plumbing business. I sold it to buy my first supply house. So, there's a difference here that I was taking those tracks at school while I was doing the trades on another side. And that doesn't happen in today's world.
And the sad dark side that nobody talks about is, to the point you just made, restaurants and small contractors lead the way in startups and in failures.
1 out of every 5.
Everybody who thinks they can cook thinks they can run a restaurant, and every technician, including the really, really good ones who can turn a wrench, think they can be a businessman. And the two things just don't necessarily follow.
Unless you're trained.
I think it's 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 8 that survive in both those industries. And that's amazing. So, yeah. So, Ryan, what's the magic arrow here, pal?
I don't have one. I wish I did, guys. I'm sorry. That's why I asked you. I was asking all these industry vets what they think on my question. I am just ready for a renaissance. I am ready, and and me and others. By the way, there are other people out in our businesses that are true marketing people that say we can help drive sales. We can help, complete the orders. We can help, move this thing forward and lead some of these initiatives. And so we're real excited about that, I would say, is some of the other fellow marketers that I've met. But man, do we love working with guys like you, though. We just love it.
Well, we're a different crew here. We're a little different.
So, wow. So that was a quick hour and 10 minutes. Holy jeez. This is fascinating. I quite loved it. We could go on for another hour, I'm sure, but has there been any questions that came in, Jason and Ted, that we haven't answered yet?
Most of them. I mean, mine was a hot burning question. He wanted to know if you worked for Techmar directly.
Oh, yeah, I don't work for Techmar directly. I work for our Watts, basically our Watts regulator parent company. So I'm at the corporate office.
Is Jason still at Techmar?
Jay, what's the last name for Jason?
He was the original owner, Jason?
I don't.
Steve, you know him. Yeah, Jason, he was the original owner.
Yeah, we have a general manager, Greg Lupin.
Okay. Yeah, I've been up in that training. So Ryan, you guys have any? I wanted to ask you, do anything more with your Watts training center up there since past
in Vernon?
Years? Yeah.
I don't think so. We have 7 training centers now, I want to say.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
We just opened one in Fort Worth, Texas as well. Yeah. Yep.
So Ryan, I have to ask this question because I didn't want to put the personal information that I have up for you. How do people get a hold of you? They already know how to get your book, but tell us more of where to call, where to go, what to email. Give us a clue on that.
Yeah.
You have
So,
like something to throw up?
And what services you have available.
oh, nice. Yeah, so yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is just going to be on the website, so kiscadenconsulting.com. Again, that's where all that information about my book is there. But you can find all my contact information is there as well. Particular to that. So, or you can always email me, which also is in the book, but ryankiscaden@gmail.com. Look, any and all questions, right? I'd be humbled if anyone had any questions they wanted to ask me. And I'd be, happy to talk more on, really my call to action for you guys is, yes, it'd be great to sell a bunch of books, but that's not really why I'm doing this. I need help. I need your help, and I think our industry needs help talking around what is it that's so great about the skilled trades. And again, we all work at manufacturers, at least on this panel. I'm sure some of the folks who are on this call aren't also working at manufacturers, but the skilled trades need us. They need our conversations. Your parents need these conversations, your grandparents, your kids, and just help change the perception of what it is that the skilled trades do. Hopefully I talked a little bit tonight on that you heard, but just generally, this industry isn't going away, particularly technicians in the field. We need them more than ever with the shortages. Never mind the echo boom from 2006, that in 2008 that's going to be, now needing replacement of equipment, to the recently passed IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. We need people, but we need people that want to work in this business and have a passion for it. And so, again, I know I'm talking to the choir here and the echo chamber, but help spread this message. The message is important. Tell your neighbors tomorrow, next day, and the next week about what's so great about the skilled trades.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just, what came to mind is whenever anybody found out I was a plumber sitting at the dinner table, I said, "So while you're here, could you look at our toilet? It seems to be dripping." And I was like,
We have this problem.
yeah. And now it's, can you look at my boiler and tell me what's wrong with it? Yeah, it's 90 years old. Replace it. But it's still running. Yeah, replace it. But whatever.
That's too funny.
Yeah. Well, that was cool, man. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks
you. For having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the video today. If you'd like to check out more videos, see the link below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for all the future updates. And also check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.